Welcome to the Cognigy.AI 3.1 release webinar. In this webinar, we're going to show you what we've worked on over the past couple of months and the new features that Cognigy.AI 3.1 comes with. We have a lot of people on the call here who have been working with Cognigy for quite a while, but I can also see that there's a couple of new people here that maybe haven't worked with Cognigy yet. So I want to start by giving a really brief overview of what Cognigy.AI actually is. Cognigy.AI is a conversational AI platform that allows you to build conversational AIs on top of it and to expose those to various channels, like you can see here on the left side. Chat channels, voice channels, built directly into devices, built into robotics, pretty much any application where you're chatting or talking to a computer program, and that computer program is the conversational AI based on Cognigy. So you can build these conversational AIs on top of Cognigy, but you can put Cognigy on top of other systems that you might already have, such as databases, APIs, HTTP APIs, and so on, where your data actually lives. That could be CRM systems, ERP systems, and maybe something like Sitecore or Salesforce, something that already exists in your organization. Cognigy is truly built as a platform, and you can extend it very easily, and that's why we call it the conversational AI platform. Let's have a look at what we built here in Cognigy 3.1. First, we have an improved flow editor UI. The flow editor is where you create the conversational AIs, and you can see a screenshot of it here on the right side. And we've listened to our partners and our customers and made a couple of small changes and added some bigger new things into it. One of the bigger things we've added is that we now have advanced Google Actions rich content and editors, graphical editors for that directly in the platform, similar to what we had for Facebook Messenger, web chat, or for Alexa. So now you can build cards and all these kinds of things that Google Actions allows directly in a graphical manner inside the Cognigy Flow editor. We also added undo redo, one of the most requested features, because if you deleted a part of your tree here, of your flow tree, then there was no way to get it back if you hadn't saved the version. Now with one click, it's going to come back. We also added search and replace, which lets you search and replace texts within your flow, making it much easier to make quick changes. Say a product name has changed, or maybe even your company name has changed, and you need to replace that in all your flows, then you can do that using search and replace. We've also added a channel filter because, as you might remember if you've used Cognigy before, in the interaction panel, you used to see all the different outputs for the different channels. So say you were hitting a certain part in the flow and it had output for web chat, it had output for Facebook, it had output for Alexa, you would see 3 outputs underneath each other. And now we have a channel selector where you can select the channel that you're currently working on, and then you will only see that output. In Cognigy, we focus a lot on integration with existing line of business systems, so ERP systems, CRM systems, experience databases, and so on. Previously, until this version here, you could integrate with those systems using HTTP calls or database requests of various kinds. What we've introduced here now is what we call custom flow nodes. So you can write your own flow nodes if you have an on-premise Cognigy installation, and you can hook them directly into the system. So with that, you just write a JavaScript class, or you can use TypeScript. You have access to the full range of NPM modules that are out there. And you can write that code and then hook this into the flow, and it will be executed at the position where the node is. So what you as a developer or you as a partner can do is you can write, for example, some Salesforce modules, or you can write Sitecore modules, and then you hook them into the flow here, and they can be used by your non-technical users just like they would use any nodes that come directly with Cognigy. So that makes integration with existing line of business systems a lot easier. We spent a lot of time working on our NLP. Our NLP was already cutting edge before, but we've put a lot of effort into creating new innovative algorithms for intent mapping. We've put those in and we've added them to our English, German, Dutch, and Danish parsers, and then we've added 2 new languages on top of that, which is Japanese and Spanish. You may remember we also have a generic language option, that generic language option has also been upgraded with a new generic intent mapper that now also uses machine learning algorithms for any language there where we don't have those specific, let's say, gold standard parsers that I've just mentioned. So German, English, Dutch, Danish, Japanese, and Spanish. We also added a new user interface tool here, which you can see on the right side, which is the intent trainer. The intent trainer shows all the sentences that the users have set to the system that either mapped an intent, but are not an example sentence yet, or that haven't been mapped to an intent. And what you can do, say a sentence, maybe someone said a sentence like, I want to order a car, and it was mapped to order food. Maybe it's because you haven't provided the right example sentences. What you can do is you can say, well, no, actually this is incorrect. I want to remap that to order automobile, for example. And when you do that and then you preview and save, the intent model is retrained, and in that way your AI gets smarter. So it's a way for non-technical users to go through to review the inputs that came from the users, to review how have they been classified, reclassify them, and in that way retrain the intent models that are under the hood to give greater accuracy. An important part of the Cognigy systems are conversation endpoints. The conversation endpoints are what a user goes through when they talk to a Cognigy conversational AI. So we previously had endpoints for Facebook, Alexa, Google Actions, and so on. And we've added a couple of conversational endpoints in this release. These endpoints are Line Messenger. Line Messenger is one of the most famous and mostly used messengers in Japan and in other countries in Asia. We've then added a native Dialogflow endpoint. We've previously had a Dialogflow NLP connector so that you can run NLP through Dialogflow, but we've now added Dialogflow as a conversation endpoint as well. So what that lets you do, it lets you use all the endpoints that Dialogflow has, like for example, Kick Messenger, which we don't have directly. And then it runs from Kick Messenger into Dialogflow. NLP is done in Dialogflow. The results are forwarded to Cognigy, and then we can do the logic and the analytics and then the responses. You could also just use Dialogflow's channel endpoints, forward the text to Cognigy. We use Cognigy NLP, just like you're used to. Then it goes into the logic engine and so on. So there's a whole variety of new use cases coming out of this by including the new Dialogflow conversation endpoint. We also added support for Twilio programmable voice. That then is our phone system integration, and I will show a couple of demos on that a little bit later. Last but not least, we've upgraded our messenger endpoint. So we've added some tools into the messenger endpoint that allow you to configure your Facebook bots in a more user-friendly way, because sometimes you need to whitelist domains, sometimes you need to configure your persistent menus. And these are all things that you had to do via HTTP calls previously, and now you can do them directly from within the Cognigy UI. One of the big things we put into Cognigy 3.0 was conversational forms. So we are, of course, measuring what features are being used most in Cognigy, and conversational forms clearly won out as the feature that was used the most often. Conversational forms, for those who don't remember, was a feature where you could create a number of questions that would then be asked in sequence, and the user had to answer them. And then afterwards, it would jump back to the flow. What we've done here in Cognigy 3.1 is we've taken that concept and we've built a powerful new graphical editor around that. So you can create conversational forms that can now contain questions, it can contain messages, and now it can also contain conditions, right? So based on an answer that was given before, or based on anything that you can do in Cognigy script, like accessing contact profiles and so on, you can now control the conversation through that. There's also a couple of extra things here, might be a little bit technical, but forms now inherit intents. What that means is that, of course, forms are being called from within a flow, and that flow might have a number of intents. It might have a help intent, it might have FAQs, and you want those FAQs also to be available when the form is being run through. So what you can do now is you can create your FAQs, you call the form, and when a user asks an FAQ question while this form is being run through, the FAQ will still be answered, so the intents are still available. We also made Cognigy script available in all form fields, meaning that you have full access to the user input, to the context of the conversation, and to the contact profile information, and of course to the answers that were given inside the form. You can output that content, and of course you can use it in conditions as well. You know that when we do update webinars, we don't just like to show slides, so we're actually going to go in and show you the conversational forms capability. So let's refresh this page here. So we're a new user, and you may remember this from the last webinar. This is Cognigy Travel Asia, and Cognigy Travel Asia allows us to book hotels in Tokyo and Bangkok. If I say something like, but I want to go to San Francisco, we're getting a message like, sorry, we don't have any hotels in San Francisco. We can only help with Tokyo and Bangkok at the moment. So maybe we choose Bangkok. The system makes a request to a database in real time, finds the hotels for us, and we can choose one. It's very flexible, as in it's not linear, like, okay, now we found hotels, choose one, but we can actually say anything we want at any point in time, just like we would with a human. So I could say, actually, I want to go to Tokyo instead. So we go to Tokyo, and then we pick a hotel here, for example, the Shangri-La. So now we've picked the hotel, and it's telling us the price, and it's asking us whether we want to make the booking. If we answer this question with yes, it's then going to execute a form for us. It's going to ask a number of questions in sequence, and I can then answer them. Those questions are the arrival date, the departure date, my first name, my last name, my email address, and whether I want to receive specials on email. Using the Cognigy system, I can of course also provide all this information in one go, or at least a lot of it. So I could say, for example, yes, from September 22nd to September 30th. I'm now not being asked for arrival and departure date because I already gave this information here in this one sentence. So I'm Philip, my last name is Heltewig, my email address is my Cognigy email address, and now it asks me whether I want to receive specials. I say yes, and then it asks me what type of specials I'm interested in, and maybe it's hotels. Okay, and thanks, we booked your stay. The booking number is 339875. So that is the functionality of the form, but of course we want to have a look at the back end of the form, and this is the actual form here. So now it's composed in a graphical way. It asks me the questions: when will you arrive? When will you depart? Well, it didn't ask me those because I provided the information, and it has this toggle here, take answers from any question. So I already provided this information. It said first name, last name, email, and then it asked me about specials. Then here we have a condition where it says, okay, did I say yes? If I said yes, then it asks me what type of specials I'm mostly interested in, and then it says thanks. So this is really the interface for non-technical users. The users can now go in and say, you know what, we don't just have hotel and activity specials, we also have flight specials. Nothing easier than that. Go in, type I'm interested in flights, and the next time you will also be presented with a flights option, right? You want to ask for the last name before the first name? Sure, just drag and drop it up here. Now where the last name comes first, and then comes first name. So let's see how easy it is to build a completely new form. Here we have a new form. I can create, for example, a bot that qualifies leads on my website. Let's see how quickly we could do that. So I would go in and I would have a welcome message like welcome to Cognigy. And then maybe there is a question. And the question is, are you interested in conversational AI? And maybe we save this under interest, and it actually is a yes/no question. Then we need a condition, and the condition is whether we're interested or not. We saved this under interest. Let me just check. Yes. If we're not interested, then we'll just say have a great day. And if we are interested, we'll maybe ask another question like, are you interested in bots for B2C or B2B? Maybe we call this type, and we give the users two answers, B2B and B2C. We can put in validation and all these kinds of things, but we'll leave this out for now. And then maybe at the end we ask for the email address so that we can get back to them on email. What's your email? And we call it email, and it's an email address. But maybe you actually always want to ask for the email if they have said yes. So we just drag this up here. So now we have that. And why don't we deploy this on the website? So the form itself lives here in this form flow. So all we got to do to deploy it on a website is to create a new endpoint. Let's say we call this demo, and it's a web chat, and the demo web chat links to the form flow, which has our form in it. And then we say, okay, it doesn't live centered, but it actually lives on the bottom right of our website. So let's see what that looks like. Now we have our chat here. Say get started. Welcome to Cognigy. Are you interested in conversational AI? Yes. Now comes my email address. It actually has validation in it, which can be defined in the form as well. So the messages can be defined in the form. Okay, it's a little bit wrong, the email, but it's a valid email address. Are you interested in bots for B2B or B2C? Maybe B2C, and now the form is finished. So where does this form finished come from? Why does it say form finished? It comes from the flow, right? Because of course, Cognigy flows is where all the magic happens, and all this flow does is executes the form. So it goes into the form, and then on finish of the form, it does something. And in this case, it says form finished. And here we can really now see the power of Cognigy. We can do anything with this. We can send the results via email. We can inject it into an API, like we could inject it into a CRM system or into some kind of workflow system or into a marketing automation system. We can store the results to a database. We could call another form. We can trigger a whole different flow that's much more complex. We can run code over the results. So all the things that you can do in Cognigy, you can now take these form results and do that with. And that's, I think, where the real power of this lies. Last but not least, I want to state that, of course, forms are fully security enabled. So you could have users that can only edit forms, right? So you could have a, I don't know, marketing junior employee, and they can only edit forms. And then you could have a more technical employee that can actually decide, okay, so when the form information has come in, where do I shoot it and so on. So the workflow system that sits below this, right? And that way you can have a full separation of tasks within the organization. All right, let's continue on. So that was the forms. But of course, the webinar is called Cognigy.AI is calling. So it's really a lot about the contact center integration. So as I said earlier, this contact center integration is built using the Twilio endpoint, but it can also be built using the Dialogflow endpoint and then becomes a part of Google Contact Center AI. So we have a full integration now of Cognigy with Google Contact Center AI and with Twilio. And both these systems allow us to do novel things where the users are not chatting with the bot anymore, but where they're actually using their phones to call the bot. With that, you can do a variety of things. You can create smarter IVRs. You could maybe just put it in, and while people are waiting on the line to talk to an operator, then maybe they can talk to an AI already. Maybe they can solve their case, and if not, they can still talk to the operator afterwards. Or you can mix the two things. You can have the user start with the AI, maybe to change a booking or something similar, and then once they're at a point where the AI can't help anymore, then the operator will take over. And we've prepared a little recording of that I'm going to play now. There's two important things to note though. The first thing is the AI clearly identifies itself as an AI, just to make sure the user has the right expectations. And that's why I think this actually works well. right? And the other thing we'll show, I'll show you right afterwards.
Service AI. How can I help you?
I want to change my booking.
Please tell me your booking ID.
339875.
Thanks. I have retrieved your booking. For security purposes, please tell me the current arrival date.
I'm arriving on September 22nd.
Thanks. This is confirmed. Your booking is number 339875 to Shangri-La Hotel, Tokyo. How can I help you?
I want to change my arrival date.
Please tell me the new arrival date.
I will arrive on September 24th.
If we change your arrival date to September 24th, then your trip will be from September 24th to September 30th. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thanks. We have changed the arrival date to September 24th. Is there anything else I can help you with?
I have a question in regards to the hotel facilities.
Sorry, I don't know how to help with this request. Would you like to talk to an operator?
Yes, please.
Not a problem. Please wait while I transfer you to an operator. Cognigy.AI, how may I help you?
Yes, hi. I have a question in regards to my booking.
Is this in regards to your trip to Shangri-La in Tokyo?
Yeah, that's right. So what we've heard here is a conversation between myself and the Cognigy conversational AI through the Twilio endpoint. What's important to note is that this was not faked in any way. Right, we can show this in a live demo, so I encourage you to reach out to our sales representatives, and they're going to show you a demo of this. You might even be able to call the AI yourself. So what this is doing is using Twilio's SGT capabilities, shooting the text to Cognigy, and we are handling it just as if it were a chat or as if it were a conversation with Alexa. Then, of course, there is one more thing. The webinar is called Cognigy is calling and not the user is calling Cognigy. So what we've built here is a second demo for you that shows how the AI can call users and not just the users, the AI. Of course, the AI cannot just call your users, but it can also call other businesses on behalf of the user. What we're doing here is we are triggering an AI-powered phone call directly from within Cognigy, and the AI can then perform tasks on behalf of the user, such as, for example, book an appointment. It could also remind the user via phone when a certain event has been triggered, or it could be used to authenticate users. So if the user is in a chat, they type something, they want to authenticate, the AI might go, okay, I'm going to give you a phone call and tell you a code. It calls the user, it names the code, and then the user inputs the code in the chat and is then authenticated. If all that sounds a lot like Google Duplex to you, then that's because it is. There's one big difference though. When the Google Duplex demo came out, everyone was in awe of the technology and how well it worked, but people found it quite eerie that the AI pretended to be human. So in the demo that we're going to show you, we're not pretending to be human, but we're actually informing the person we're calling that we're an AI, and then have the AI perform the task, in that case, transmit a reservation. So let's have a look at that. If we go back to our booking that we made earlier, here we can now look for places in Bangkok, and there is a hostel here, the Pruxa Hostel in Bangkok. We say, let's book this hotel, and we go through the form like we saw earlier. Pick a date, for example, the 1st of October, and then we pick a departure date, say the 10th of October. That should be enough time in Bangkok. It says, what's your last name? So you can see now last name comes first because we just changed that. And then we put in a first name, and I put in my email address. Maybe because this is a personal booking, I choose a different one. And maybe I do not want to receive specials. Now it says Pruxa Hostel Bangkok doesn't have online booking facilities, so we can have our AI call the hostel for you. do you want to make us the booking for you? We say yes, and now the AI will call the hostel and make the booking on behalf of the user. And this is what this sounds like.
Hi, this is the Cognigy Travel Asia Bookings AI. A customer requested us to make a reservation with you. Can you take the reservation now?
Yes.
I will tell you the details of the reservation now. Please confirm after each piece of information. Let's start. Our internal booking number is 334244.
Okay, noted that.
The customer name is Philip Heltwig.
How do you spell the last name?
Heltwig is spelled H-E-L-T-E-W-I-G.
Okay, got that.
The arrival date is October 1st and the departure is October 10th.
October 10th, okay.
The email is pheltwig@gmail.com.
Okay, next.
Can you confirm the booking?
Yes, confirmed.
Thanks. Do you have a message for the customer?
Please let them know that the check-in is from 3 p.m. on.
Thank you. We will deliver your message. Have a great day.
So what we saw here was the AI performing a task on behalf of the user. In this case, it was a hostel that didn't have online booking facilities, so a booking could only be made via phone. And now the AI called the hostel and made the booking for the user. Afterwards, the lady on the phone gave a message to the user, which can then be re-injected into the chat, or which can be delivered again via an AI-powered phone call, this time to the user. So that's Cognigy.AI 3.1, and it is available as of this week in our on-premise and SaaS editions. We're going to hold Cognigy.AI 3.1 training starting in October in Europe and the United States. And of course, as always, you can contact us for a personalized demo at any time. My contact details are here on the screen, but you can also go to our website and sign up for a demo there. Thank you very much.